Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for coming out. I'm Brian Reitz with the Akron Community Foundation. And on behalf of our board and staff, we'd like to thank you for coming out, learning about this fantastic opportunity to learn from 4 of our CDCs in town, some of the initiatives, some of the opportunities for you to get engaged as nonprofits, as philanthropists, and be able to work together and see the system move forward and move our community here in Summit County forward. Before I start, I guess I would like to make sure to introduce with us tonight is our board chair, Sylvia Trundle. Thank you for coming out. Sylvia is at every single Akron Community Foundation event.
Free food.
And if you're wondering if it's humid outside, obviously you can just look at the barometer. When I step outside, it's going to go even higher. So, might get a little cozy and warm in here, but we encourage you to listen. We encourage you to engage and ask questions at the end. And as you know, there's Akron Community Foundation staff here. We're always willing to have a conversation with you, whether it's hearing about your program, learning about your program, or as we often say, more importantly, learning about the challenges that you're facing as nonprofit organizations. Let us know what problems you have so we can try to help you find solutions to move forward. So without further ado, I will introduce my colleague, Dr. Cristina Gonzalez Alcala.
And he's being generous. Really, you should only call him if you have any of these questions. He is the contact person, not Chris and I. Thank you all for being here. It's always exciting to be able to gather around, especially around these times when things are uncertain. So I'm happy you were able to give yourself some time to come visit the Rialto Theater and partake in this conversation. I will leave ample time at the end. Hopefully they don't take up too much of our time. Ample time for you all to ask some questions that might be burning. I know the CDC sometimes is something that we are less aware of, even though their work is very well done, and because it's so well done, sometimes we don't know it because it's so done in the neighborhood that we are just least aware if we're not living inside those neighborhoods. I'm lucky enough I live in North Hill, so I get to know what's happening up and go visit Nohi. So let me have them introduce themselves. As they introduce themselves, I want to share with you a definition from the Ohio CDC Association. CDC is a community development corporation. These are nonprofit organizations that in Ohio have empowered communities to take local action to generate economic opportunities and improve the quality of life in underserved neighborhoods. These nonprofits provide a wide range of initiatives that have revitalized and stabilized disadvantaged communities throughout the state. And some of these initiatives include housing, community economic development, community engagement, financial empowerment, and food access. So we'll be eager to hear from them. So I'll start off with Justin, and we'll just let everybody else introduce themselves, introduce your organization, and we'll take it from there.
Good afternoon. My name is Justin Chenault. I am the Executive Director of North Hill Community Development Corporation. We're focused on 3 things, and that will continue to evolve: creative placemaking, economic development, and finding the best way to build social cohesion in our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Do share the neighborhood that you serve.
Oh, well, of course. So North Hill, so landmarks would be you cross a wide bridge, you're at North Hill. Waters Park, which is another hidden gem. The old Italian Center, which is now called, it's now owned by the Nepali community. The Namaste Center.
Royal Palace.
Royal Palace, exactly. Thank you. I should know these things. Arsenic and Old Lace, for those people who shouldn't raise their hand. That's another landmark. But all of that is Northern Howard Street, of course, which you can't forget. Those are all part of our North Hill district. Thank you.
Good evening, or afternoon, I should say. I'm Tina Boyes. I represent the Kenmore Neighborhood Alliance, and you are in Kenmore right now, and I'm so happy you're here. So what you may or may not know about Kenmore is we used to be our own city. We formed, we're incorporated around 1908 around basically a trolley line that connected Barberton to Akron. So the reason you see these wide streets and that median out there is because we exist because a trolley line was created. And we are here not necessarily to bring back the Kenmore of yesterday, but to reimagine what Kenmore would be like if these blocks between 12th Street and 16th Street, so literally right where you're sitting, were vibrant places that serve the residents of the community. And we are actually a music district. We're becoming known as Akron's Music Row. So a lot of our work revolves around music, including the Rialto Theater. So.
Zac Kohl, I'm the executive director at the Well CDC in the Middlebury neighborhood. So think near east side of Akron. So from Summa Hospital, crossing Route 8, down to the old Goodyear World headquarters, now at the East End development. So that's about a mile strip of East Market Street. And there's residential neighborhoods kind of north and south of East Market Street there. About 6,200 residents. Been a neighborhood in decline since Goodyear left, but really trying to fight to bring some investment back into the community. The Well, we talk about investing in people through the built environment. So we do housing, economic development, and placemaking in the Middlebury neighborhood.
Hello everyone, my name is Jimmie Spurlock. I am the Executive Director of True Vision Community Development Corporation. We are located at 640 North Main Street, right next door to Medio Pizza and across the street from Towpath Credit Union. Our three focus is housing, which is Akron Thrives. We also have our Live It Up program for our youth and our REACH project that's for substance abuse and women that's facing domestic violence and also men that's facing child support issues. We also have a program that helps with diversity, a diverse program. If you in court and if we can come to agreement, they can put you through our program and you won't have to go to jail or face any time through our program.
Thank you so much, everyone. And so for the audience, there are 5 central tenets to community development. And you've heard some of those mentioned: the community engagement, neighborhood level economic development, creative placemaking, housing, and neighborhood planning. So I just want to give an opportunity for, you mentioned some, Jimmie. Could you go a little bit more in depth as to where in each of those focus areas that you're working with, does some of the programming look like, and how are you serving the neighborhoods? Because you also remind us which neighborhoods you're serving.
That's right. So we're serving the north side as well as east side. Really, our whole focus is to serve Summit County. And just yesterday, we got news that we'll also be help serving part of Cuyahoga County as well. So, but we have what they call a 90-day case management, which is a life coaching model, and this is how all of our service is wrapped around. They have to enroll into the 90-day case management, and then we assess them every 30 days in the 90 days to see where they at. Our goal is to get them from crisis to be able to be stable and self-sufficient. That's our goal. And so with our housing program, the 90-day case management, we teach them about eviction, the tenant's right, the landlord right. We also try to figure out where the roadblocks is that's preventing them from getting across the bridge, whether it's needing a job or they need a GED, if they're facing credit issues. And so we refer them out to other agencies as far as that can help them with credit, counseling, and et cetera. So with our REACH program, that program is the substance abuse, and again, that's a 90-day case management as well. So we also collaborate with the Derek Owens group and the lab, along with Stuckey Consulting as well, with a lot of our programs.
So those 5 kind of tenets, I think we hit on all 5 of them in Middlebury. We talk about our work as being a holistic approach to neighborhood, to improving or investing in our neighborhood. I'd say the biggest dollar investment is housing. So in 2018, January of 2018, we launched 60 for 60 campaign where we wanted to rehab 60 homes in 60 months. 60 months is this coming December. We just purchased house 78, so we kind of blew away a little bit. And that, we have a staff team that's phenomenal, but I think it just goes to show, like, our whole neighborhood, our whole community, the whole Akron community has really rallied behind that. Pairing debt dollars, philanthropic dollars, city, federal, state dollars in these houses to take a lot of blighted, boarded up homes into beautiful quality living situations for families. So the biggest dollar we spend is definitely housing. Year and a half ago, we launched a Middlebury Workforce Coalition, where we have partners. It's over 20 different organizations, and we do monthly cohorts that are helping find people who are ready to work with career-ready jobs. So we talk about that as finding the right people at the right place at the right time, connecting them to open jobs in the neighborhood. Summa Hospital has been a huge partner of ours. They do, out of 11 cohorts that we do every year, Summa Hospital is 6 of them. So they've been a phenomenal partner. Again, trying to say, you know, one of the things that really brought this program about was Dr. Devaney, the CEO of Summa. He stood up at, I think it was an Akron Roundtable event a couple years ago, and said, we have 500 available jobs at Summa on any given day. But Middlebury's unemployment rate is triple that of Summit County. So how do we help people connect the dots to get through the perceived or real barriers of employment at a great employer like Summa Hospital? So now that has grown from just working with Summa to working with other people as well. And then kind of community engagement space, we do a lot of investment in the local elementary school, places where families and neighbors naturally engage or are. So we have a program called Akron Hope. We've done some neighborhood planning. We do a program right now called Middlebury Block Challenge, where we give small $1,000 grants to any group of 5 or more neighbors that want to do a project together on their block. So kind of engaging on all 5 of those, kind of in a holistic approach to loving, serving, and supporting our neighborhood.
So in Kenmore here, a lot of what we do is built around, I'll kind of take you back a few years. We really started our work in 2017, and it kicked off with a community engagement project called the Kenmore Better Block. And I don't know if anyone remembers the Better Blocks that happened around Akron. Yeah, they were excellent, weren't they? Ours was awesome. What it did is we were able to engage our residents to say, hey, like, what do you love about Kenmore Boulevard? Because let's face it, we realized this was our greatest asset. And we're an asset-based community developer. We see the thing that's good and we say, okay, how can we take this and make it better and expand it and keep rolling it out to the rest of the neighborhood? And we knew this boulevard, there's nothing like it anywhere in Akron. It's the largest neighborhood business district in Akron. It's got contiguous buildings, it's built right up to the sidewalks. It's exactly what you want for neighborhood-based community development. So we asked residents, like, what are the reasons you would come to Kenmore Boulevard? What's missing that would make you come to Kenmore Boulevard? And the number one thing we found out was not, safer streets or cleaner streets or a 2-lane street instead of 4-lane street, but we'll come back to that. The number one thing people said they wanted was just a coffee shop. Because neighborhoods like this were built on, there's a spirit of community where neighbors knew one another. And over the years, this community has changed, and people don't know one another. And a lot of those long-standing families and neighbors, they've moved away. And the neighborhood just really wanted a coffee shop. So we did the Better Block event, we put what people wanted in these buildings, and we just kept doing events like that over and over and over again. And I'm happy to say this year, during our Kenmore First Friday event, we've actually been consistently bringing down over 1,000 people to Kenmore Boulevard on Friday nights. Unheard of 5 years ago. But what that tells us is the community engagement we did, people are finally starting to see that as a reality. Like their hopes and dreams, they say, aha, like this is attainable. So a lot of what we do around some of the other areas too, you mentioned creative placemaking, neighborhood planning, neighborhood level economic development. It's all based on what do the residents want here? And what are the assets here that we can bring to bear? Jennifer down here, Jennifer Herrick, she's got on the jobs t-shirt. I'll talk a little bit more about her, but we uncovered that she was doing job training with girls in the neighborhood, at-risk girls in the neighborhood. like, if people want food, why aren't these girls working in the food places? So that's the kind of stuff that we put most of our efforts in. I will say we are delving for the first time into housing, mixed use housing. So we believe we really want to concentrate our efforts to make our dollars go the furthest they can, and it's these 3 blocks. So when you walk out, you see a building across the street with some bird board up on it. We got that building through the land bank, and now we're looking into putting affordable apartments upstairs. So.
Yeah, right on. Congratulate everybody for the hard work they're doing over here, man. There's some killer partners here in this room, and Akron Community Foundation, we're really thankful for.
Oh, Cosmo.
Yeah, but yeah. Give me a second, Christine. As you all might know or might not know, North Hill is an international district. And the undercurrent of that is that didn't sit well with everybody in the neighborhood. To be completely honest, right? Because the neighborhood wasn't always an international district. Huge Italian community, huge African American community, right? So part of the challenge that I face, right, that the CDC faces is how do we address that through economic development? How do we address that through creative placemaking? And you have to take an approach with each community, right? So we have 35 nationalities in our neighborhood, right? I can't reproduce the great work that IIA does, but there's a point where those services stop, right? Where at some way, in some point, some organization has to provide access, right, to show that those community members that are new, that are immigrants or former refugees, right, or that have just been disenfranchised because they faced problems such as urban renewal, right, or redlining, right? So how do we address that, right? And one of the ways that we took that on recently in the past few years is we created NoHi, which has been a program where we wanted to show that everybody's culture and cuisine had value. And that's just one example of something that we decided that we can do. And granted, and you can see the study in 2017, the Nepali community has something crazy like $17 million of disposable income in North Hill, right? So I can throw a stone and I'm next to a Nepali grocery store. I'm next to a Nepali restaurant or a Nepali-owned business. And that's fantastic. We want to see that. But that doesn't represent the diversity of our entire neighborhood. So what role do we play to address, right, at sometimes the inequity with businesses or the diversity of access to businesses within our neighborhood? So we've created additional entrepreneur problems, right? So if we're going to be the international district, then we're going to find a way to double down on that. When you come to North Hill, you need to be able to get that great experience. Do you know where all of our fantastic Italian restaurants are? Have you been there, right? Do you know where you can get African cuisine or Thai cuisine, right? Or Polish food, right? Where are these opportunities at within our neighborhood? So that's part of what we recognized overall and things that we'll be moving forward, like in the future, is how to celebrate that, how to invite people into our neighborhood and do North Hill, right? And I think that's something that we all can appreciate, because I think each neighborhood has identified that they have something special that other neighborhoods don't. And so we're going to double down on that aspect, but part of the challenge and the success will be is how we unite the communities that feel like they're kind of been torn apart by a new title that necessarily they didn't choose, right? And I think that's okay. I think there's some beauty in that. So we recognize that there are unique opportunities on Howard Street that in Temple Square, where Arsenic No Lace is, or where NoHi is, that we need to find better ways to connect those two. So I mean, in short, the NoHi food program, we've had some killer partners involved in that. We've had over 72 entrepreneurs go through, over $210,000 have been returned back to food entrepreneurs, 7 of which have gone to open up their own brick and mortar, take in Irie Kitchen in Highland Square, or Totally Baked Pizza, or Urban Gourmet in 166 South High Street, all with our food program, all have received support through us. We have 7 of which have now owned food trucks, right? And a dozen have really increased their catering through partners with Akron Community Foundation and whatnot. So I think that's just an example of what we've learned works when you just provide access and listen to what the community wants to see more of. We've also partnered with Bounce Innovation Hub. We're big on entrepreneurship because our community needs to find ways to eventually fill our commercial corridors. Right, that's huge for us. We want to see more businesses that represent, and I mean, like Tina as well, the diversity of our neighborhood. If I can't go to North Hill and buy an African trinket, as well as like some really great ramen, and know how to do that, that's a problem, right? So we're here to solve that issue and connect, right? Those entrepreneurs that are undiscovered, those entrepreneurs that are emerging with the next phase of their business. So if we can leverage, again, sometimes Bounce, which is one of our partners, we teach their Aspiring Entrepreneur program. And the reason that we teach it in North Hill is a little bit because Bounce is daunting. You walk into Bounce and there's a gate to get to the next side, which is fantastic because that's how it works, right? For any of my Bounce people in the room. But for some of our community, there's other barriers that are in place, whether it's language or access of where your kids are going to go. We can be able to solve those problems for them right there. And the more that we listen to what our community doesn't have access to or where they're stopping, right? Because they say, hey, I can get that far, but then I don't know what to do when I can get there, right? That's where we listen. So, I mean, we have other initiatives as well. I think that creative placemaking piece is huge. So People's Park is one of those initiatives where we have an outdoor venue. We have a pavilion. It's right in the heart of Temple Square. We can figure out where community can gather. They can rent. It's affordable. And those are the type of things that are necessary. Like as a community is growing, that you just show as a development, right? We're growing towards like a 60 for 60, that's 7-8, keep killing it. But you know, there's still smaller steps in that process that the community has to see, right? And that builds that trust. That they know when they see the Well logo or they see Tina's logo or the great work that you're doing, that it's a part of something bigger, right? And that's what we want to show by what we're doing now. So.
Sorry, before you ask the next question, I think I want to build on that thought there, because I think one of the things that you see, and I don't know your work quite as well as these guys, but I think one of the commonalities that you hear in all of our work, and one of the ways we talk about it at the Well, is that we want everyone in Middlebury to feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves, right? Neighborhoods used to be identifiers, right? They used to be, I'm from this place. And I think in the last couple decades, I mean, especially in Middlebury, what we've experienced is a lot of transiency. We've got a lot of people who have been in Middlebury for a long time, but what that transiency creates is a lack of connection to place. And I think whether we're in housing or economic development, entrepreneurship, creative placemaking, a neighborhood planning process, like whatever it is, that what we're trying to do is create a greater connection to place where people in a disinvested community don't feel like they're fighting alone, but that they're a part of something bigger.
And Zac, to that, so you all mentioned, or there was talk about listening, right? And listening when which voices are there, though, right? So we see time and again, and we experience time and again, the Black and brown voices get displaced or get missed in planning situations, especially for development planning. So what specifically have you all been able to do in order to engage? And you taught me the term cultural brokers, right? You are there, and especially for you, when I first met him, like you are a Black man, and I understand what that tension is from the Black community in the immigrant refugee community in North Hill, right? And you're gonna be here, and you love immigrants, as much as you love your Black African American community. And so it's all about being cultural brokerage, right? In North Hill, at least. So. In that regard, with that strategy and other strategies that you all have implemented, how have you ensured that those displaced voices, mainly Black and brown voices, have been heard in terms of the planning and the work that you're doing?
Right. Thank you for that question. And I think that's a unique solution, right? Because I don't think every solution fits every scenario or every community. But one thing through cultural brokers that we've learned is that sometimes you have to create a leader, right? And through our great partnerships with whether it's Akron Public Schools or the Corinne community or the improvement movement in North Hill, you have to go and seek those individuals. And then you have to let those individuals know, right? So this is one way, right? You have to let those individuals know that there's a path, right? Because so right now we're piloting a Hispanic community center in North Hill at the Exchange House, right? One thing that I found over time, through this year, is that the Hispanic community is extremely guarded, right? And I love that aspect because they know their community, right? And they know who's trusted, they know who's valued, and they know why you're there or why you shouldn't be there, right? But guess what? I can't just show up and say, like, hey, I'm here to help, and think that someone's gonna open their door and be that vulnerable. They're not, right? So that time is an investment that I have to take with each 35 nationalities in my neighborhood, right? Right, and I'm just one aspect. So how does the organization, right, make sure that their brand represents that level of comfort and protection, right? That is listening sessions, right? And through our partnerships with like the North Hill Library or different church groups, we can provide that space. But that space doesn't build that trust, right? That trust comes through a success story. That trust comes through somebody else pulling the next person up and say, hey, they're all right? You come on through. Nah, today. We do this all the time, y'all, don't worry. So I think that's what's really necessary in our community is not just how we listen, but how we empower and how we make sure that the vision that I have for North Hill, though great, is not as powerful as what you want to see on your street. And I need to make sure that you have the skills and the ability, the know-how, and access to the funding to be able to be a part of that vision. Because it's your neighborhood as well as ours. We're just a facilitator. That's the role that I feel. Like, we can set the tempo, I can bring the dollars, but if you as a community member aren't in the space to influence and guide us how we use these dollars, and that's a huge miss. Right, so I'm a little bit sensitive how I walk that path. So we have some great community leaders, Sa Win, Samantha, Biake, right, that have I've seen how they got to where they are in that success. And that's because they have been given the opportunity to tell their story, but then also they've been chanced with, hey, let me see what you can do with it. Then they've been valued by that and then supported by that. So I'm constantly looking for that next person. Right, that next leadership, that next group that needs that access, that needs to be heard, right? So we can provide them with that same access. Because I need their storefront, I need their entrepreneurship, I need to identify, and for them to say what they need, so that we can figure out how to develop a plan for them.
So I don't know how many folks know the history of Kenmore, but in 2000, Kenmore was 93% white. 2000. 93% white. Okay? That has changed, and for the better. But when I walked out on Kenmore Boulevard in 2017, started doing my work, this boulevard did not look representative of our neighborhood currently. It was still 97% white and very predominantly male. So in 2018, closer to 1918, we embarked on a market study of the neighborhood. Because we wanted to see, what kind of capacity for certain types of retail is here? What do people want? So we kind of anecdotally through the Better Block knew what people wanted, but we wanted the actual dollars and cents and the numbers to see what is possible here really. So right after we got that, we found out right off the bat, we are hemorrhaging restaurant traffic. People who live in Kenmore have access to every suburb you can name within 15 minutes. The highway is here, there, and there. Okay, great for when you go to work, not great for building community. And we knew that capacity was here, and we said, okay, hey, who could we be talking to? How do we build that retail and that food environment that's inclusive? So in 2019, we didn't have a program, I'm embarrassed to say, we just had me, but we said, how do we make the business ownership on this boulevard and the employees working in those storefronts look more like the people who live in the neighborhood? In fact, how do we make them the people who live in the neighborhood? So strangely enough, over COVID, we added 12 businesses in 2021 and 2020. I don't know how this happened, you guys, but all I know is I was available, right? Kind of like Justin said, but you need someone who's willing to connect you with the resources. You have a thing, right? Maybe you're working an office job and COVID hits and you're like, man, this is not for me anymore, but I really know how to do this. We had a few of those, but the vast majority saw the work we were doing down here, and they said, I want to be part of that. I want to be part of a movement. They saw the events, they saw the marketing, they saw the camaraderie we were building among the storefront owners, and they said, I want to be part of that. And I'm happy to say, and I don't know how we did it, and I can't say we had a program, that makes me want to cry, because that's hard to write a grant for not a program. but from 2019 to 2021, we added 12 businesses, over half of which are non-white owned, half of which are female owned, and a third of which are resident owned. That is huge. That is huge for our families, for our kids that attend attend school here to see, like, hey, I don't have to leave this place like I did when I graduated from high school. I'm from this area. I'm a poster child for see you later. Like, there's nothing for me here. But I'll tell you what, like, people are finally starting to say, huh, and my daughter's one. I want to cry. Like, she's going to be working at the new tea house across the street, and she told me for the first time she was proud of me because there was something for her here. Like, we're starting to do that, and that's exciting.
I'm gonna cry too. I think maybe from the organizational side, we've tried to be really intentional with board representation, both from the neighborhood or representative of the neighborhood. Like the principal at Mason is on our board. We try and have a very diverse board space so that people are sitting at the table when we're making decisions. Our staff, we've also tried really hard to have a diverse staff. People like Curtis Minter, who's our operations director, gets like all the credit for that. So grateful to have a phenomenal group of people around me who have sought the diversity. In some spaces more than I have, a great group of people doing that. But on the programmatic side, so I do think that's really important. There's actually, I think the Ohio CDC Association would say that a third of your board needs to come from or be representative of the neighborhood. And I'm excited to say that we've always kind of met that mark, where you need to have people who are movers and shakers in the whole Akron community on your board. We've always been really intentional in making sure that there are people who live in boots on the ground in our neighborhood on our board. And on the programmatic side, like I said, we do a lot of our community engagement and listening kind of in the elementary school. So we've supported some of the teachers in the school starting a student leader program. We've encouraged some creative placemaking. If you drive down Exchange, kind of a student-led design just on the fence that says you are welcome here. That Jen Valit, our program coordinator at Akron Hope, kind of just took a whole semester to dream with the students and think about what it means for them to be a part of Middlebury. I think if you ask 50% of the teachers at Mason 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, they would have no idea that they were in Middlebury. So just that idea of place is new, but we've done a lot of engagement there. We also recently just started a resident engagement kind of department. So all of our program pieces now fall under the umbrella of community or resident engagement. And so in all of our programs, it's one of our core goals that what does it look like to be engaging, working with the neighbors of our space. So Akron Foodworks is an example of that, where the guy Kyle, who runs Akron Foodworks, he is part of the resident engagement team. And so at least twice a month, he's in a room thinking about what does it mean for me not just to run a shared space launch kitchen and have space for food entrepreneurs, but what does it look like for me to engage the residents of this place and really bring them into the process and decision making. So all of our programs, yes, they run their own thing, but they all kind of report back to the resident services department and are dreaming and thinking about what it means to engage the residents of the place.
All right, they said a lot. Okay, as far as True Vision Community Development Corporation, it's our goal to meet anyone, everyone where they at. So we work with diverse of race, and our goal is to bring people together. That's our ultimate goal. So we give everyone a chance to be heard. So when they come into our agency, they're being heard. And we want to meet them where they need and where they at. And our goal is to bring, because even in our area that we're in, I see there's a lot of Mexicans, there's a lot of Chinese, and then there's not too many African Americans, but our goal is to bring the neighborhoods together. So that's why we engage into the community, and that's why this our program, the Akron Thrive, is to help the people and to bring them together. One thing I really love what he said, what all of y'all said, is about engaging. It's very important that we engage into the community, but to collaborate together. And that's our ultimate mission, is to collaborate. to work with other partners to meet the community needs and to bring everyone together and to show the community is not this person, that person. No, we together, we work together, we can achieve what we need to achieve. And so that's our ultimate goal, is to really engage into the community and bring the community together and offer our services to them. Because we, again, want to meet the people where they at. We want to make them smile. We want to bring families back together. We want children to be back into their homes. We want women to feel safe from being in domestic violence. We just want to do so much for the community, but we know we can't do everything because we're not Superman. But what we can do, we can do our part to engage into the community to help bring the community together. And they was actually put out their home. Their family left them. The parent passed away, and they didn't have no one. They had a child, so what we did was we was able to help them to find safe housing, as well as to get a job, and anything that they need as far as development, as far as job training, we was able to provide that service. And they've been with us for now 2 years, and they has a great success. Now the husband is working, he's a manager. The wife is actually, she's at home, a home mom, and their baby is doing real well. They have a home, and they just told us the other day how much that they were so happy, and they really thank True Vision Community Development Corporation for the help. And those type of success stories, it means a lot to me, because my heart out is for the people and want to see the people, be very successful in everything they do.
I think the thing that I look like at where the well is at and what we've been able to do, I think one of the things is the staff team that we've been able to create that really loves Middlebury. So we have a staff team of 20, 13 full-time, and the way that they love our community and love our space is just phenomenal. I think some of the stories I get most excited about are from Joyce Fox. So Joyce is our property manager. So she signs leases all day, not all day, but when we have openings, she signs leases. But so much of what she does is social work. I mean, she's helping families connect the dots. She's helping families not just move into housing, but also connect with our workforce development services. Or our job training cohorts. She's helping families connect to Akron Hope. She runs family connection events, I think every other month, where she's really building and creating community in the 78 homes that we've renovated, and also the greater Middlebury community. So I think that's like, we started 6 years ago, and it's just been this like sprint, and we've grown a lot, and I know everyone can kind of attest to what it means to like start something, and are still very much in the season of starting. It's like someday we won't be starting anymore, and it'll be great. But I think when you're running an organization, to be able to lift your head up and look at the people in the space that are really like helping families connect the dots and serving our community, I think that's what gets me most excited. So the bricks and mortar is fun, and it's cool to see houses. We're building our first new house right now, which is really cool. But I think it's the fact that like Joyce is going to get to connect with a family and put a new family into that beautiful new house, and that's what's most exciting.
So I am going to talk about brick and mortar, because I see a couple board members back there that like to talk about brick and mortar. So I think I mentioned a little bit about music in Kenmore. You may not realize this, but there are 7 now recording studios within a block and a half of either side of you. One of them is upstairs right here. We have one live music venue, 2 guitar shops, and countless neighborhood musicians who, I mean, they have been in Kenmore doing this for years. And it's the kind of thing that if you don't pay attention, you might miss it. So I'm really proud that we leaned into the music and we're really starting to see it take off. So it just so happened, I don't know if anyone gets our e-newsletter, but today we announced that a vacant building that we actually popped up a live music venue in. Like literally, the nonprofit ran a live music venue for 6 months. It was exhausting, but it was super cool. We kept that building in circulation with various community groups because we didn't want to see the property owner knock it down. And I'll tell you what, we've had more than one conversation with him about knocking it down. We're like, don't you dare. You know, our buildings are what make this place special. And it may not be a special building in and of itself, but the whole and the collective is what makes Kenmore Kenmore. So today we were able to announce that the Buzzbin Music and Art, Buzzbin out of Canton is relocating their concert venue into Kenmore. And the thing that really gets me is that the reason they did it is because of the First Friday events. Okay, so their owner came to one of our First Friday events, and Kyle, who's also on our board, they've been coming to our First Friday events since the beginning. His wife now owns one of 2 businesses that came here because of the First Friday event. So these events are cultivation events. They're not just events for events' sake. And yes, we love bringing the neighborhood together, but we're also showing entrepreneurs that this is a place for you. There's support here for you. And he came and he saw the activity on Kenmore Boulevard, the music, and just the supportive nature of the residents and the businesses, and said, I want to be there. So hopefully this fall, on September 24th, Seth is hosting a fundraiser for the Buzzbin here. Come on back, see what they're all about. But I just expect, it's a snowball effect. And, those are the kind of things that when you take a step back and say, oh my gosh, look at what we just did. Like, it's really special.
No, give it a round of applause. Like, what you might miss is the blood, sweat, and tears. Like, literally.
Tears.
Yeah,
for sure.
Right? That goes into that, because you just want to see something happen, and you want the community to find pride. So these type of stories really do just get me excited about the work that we're doing, because sometimes you can't see the sun because you're in the valley, right? But one of the success stories, because there's multiple, right? I remember it was the Better Block in North Hill, and I met this budding entrepreneur that had this fantastic hot sauce from Durango, Texas. Mexico, right? No, I'm just kidding. But I think this is a prime example of what North Hill is able to cultivate, right? I was talking about something that she's been doing for a long time. There's so many success stories, because I think every time I engage a community member and they find value in our community or their identity, to me that's a win. But what I will say is one that kind of sticks with me is an entrepreneur and just a cultural broker for the Karen community in North Hill. Is my buddy Sawin. I call him the son of North Hill, and he's just found his voice in the community. And I remember he did a pop-up at Nohi, and I told him, I said, hey man, yes, so sure, if you know any part of the refugee camps in their neighborhood or in his community, the Korean community, that he was in Taiwan for a while, so a lot of their dishes are Thai-based, right? So I said, Sa, don't do that. I said, go dig in the crates, if you will, and do something from the Korean community. And so he was like, oh, I don't want to, his words, right? I don't want to do any jungle food. I said, that's exactly what we want. So he did this bamboo shoot stew and these things, right, that were fantastic. And what happened was, his mother told him, nobody wants your food. Nobody wants our food. You're not going to sell a single thing, right? So the first day, Zac came. The first day we opened up Nohi, we had to close down. He was there. It was like a 20-minute hiccup turned into a 2-hour wait. We had to shut it down. The line was out the door. It was just ridiculous, right? So he was in there with his sister Moody, and they were cooking it up. It was just the community response was fantastic. So anyway, his mom shows up, right? We kick back open at 4 o'clock. His mom shows and comes in the door, and I'm coming out from the back trying to solve a problem. Katie Beck, the executive director at the time, Gumdip Theater, shout out, right? Was running the front register, and I see his mother walk in, and I escort her to the back, and she's looking like, what the hell, how's there a line, right? She couldn't understand what was going on. So I take her to the back of the kitchen. Our executive chef at the time, Sa Win, and his sister Moody, and I'm back there just washing dishes. I don't know anything about the kitchen. Like, they are just really just burning it down. His mother washes her hands and gets straight to work. Like, she didn't know how to read a ticket, she didn't know what to do. I mean, get straight to work. She works from 4 o'clock until 8. She's washing the dishes at the end of the day. And what happened was, they went and we had a little booth in Nohi, and they sat back in that booth, and they looked at each other, they hugged, and they started crying, right? And what I found out as Sal was interpreting to me is that she saw that their culture and cuisine had value in North Hill. So if I continue to find ways to do that for every one of my residents, every one of my African American residents, every one of our new former refugee and immigrant community members in North Hill, that they find value, then that's success, right? So I mean, there's so many more I can tell, but that one always just like, it just hits the heartstring so perfect. It's a wonderful chord. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
You know, remember, I don't make the grants, it's our board, I recommend the grants. No, fantastic, thank you all so much again for the work that you're doing. Our communities are so blessed to have dedicated individuals in you all with your leadership, your passion, leading at the forefront. So thank you again. Please a round of applause to them again. And at this time, I'd like to open it up to the audience for you to bring up some questions, please.
I'm a new resident in the North Hill area. I live in the high rise on the corner of Howard and Howard Avenue. Okay? I would like to go to some of these restaurants. I do not know where they're at. I've tried to find them. Somebody from the community, I guess, has those advertisement boards they put on that post right at the light, and then they barbecue next there. Well, I can do that, but I cook for myself and other people a lot. But I would like to enjoy some of the dishes that I know nothing about, but I would like to try. And I mean, it's 9 floors in that high rise. And I'm sure, not only me, but other people would like to know, where can we get that from?
Right. Thank you for your question. I think that's something that's relative to everyone's experience in North Hill. It's how do you do it,
Yeah.
right? So one thing that we are approaching kind of with steam right now is leveraging our website. So currently our website talks about what we do at the Exchange House and our owned assets that are fantastic programs. But if we are not the Exchange House or Nohi CDC, we're North Hill, right? So our obligation is to change how we leverage the space that we have to make sure that it reflects the diversity and the opportunities in the community. But what I will tell you is my buddy Mike is on that corner always firing it up. Yes. Right? And Jason, we got a great art installation coming where you see some of those bricks that the mayor's been on my neck about, that we'll be doing something different about, and I appreciate that. But that, I think what you have identified, you're not the only person suffering from that problem, right? And there's a missing connection and link within the neighborhood for people to feel comfortable. And one of the experiences I did have when we had another board from another organization out, and sometimes walking into these grocery stores where I'll be the only black person, or maybe you're the only white person in there, it's uncomfortable, right? Yes. But you know what, I turn it around and I said, do you wonder how our immigrant and former refugee community feels anytime they walk into a predominantly white space? They feel the same exact way. So those are the unique experiences that we have in North Hill that we are leaning into, making sure that our community members know where to go, whether it's through wayfinding signs, a Facebook group, or just a letter that goes out. And I do appreciate you acknowledging that 666 Howard Street. We do need to spend some time there. Thank you.
I also think that with me, I'm kind of creative and I like to dive in. Yeah. I think, and I've thought about this several times, so I'm going to be the first one to extend the olive branch, and I'm just going to go in there.
Yeah. Well, look, come on out.
If they run me out.
Oh, no. Oh, hey, look, listen, what I've learned is the same thing with my barber shops. Like, I found that barber shops, I was trying to find a place in North Hill that everybody goes.
Yeah.
It happened to be the barbershops.
Cute.
Yeah, it happened to be the barbershops. They cut everybody's hair, right? So one thing that I think we all have to learn how to do is, especially in North Hill, right, it's my neighborhood, you just got to go in someplace. Like, because your money's green. They are not concerned about your color. I'm going to tell you that straight away, right? But we also have to deal with our own stigma and our own uncomfortability and be able to find something in there. I don't care if you buy, like, a bottle of water or a beer. Go in there and just see what's available, right? Don't go to Acme. I tell anybody, if you want ramen, don't go to Acme. Don't go to Save-A-Lot. Come to my neighborhood and you can get something authentic, right? Buy something that you don't know what it is. Look it up, right? There's a discovery and a unique opportunity around the corner. I'm gonna tag that, but right in North Hill. But I think what you're saying, I think with everybody's neighborhood is that we have to learn how to make sure that when we brand and talk about the experiences in our neighborhood, that they're accessible to community members inside and outside of the community as well.
Because there's a store I want to go into.
We'll just
And
go.
I think I'm just going to park and go.
Please.
As long as they're not
You call
selling-
me and him, we come
Yeah.
with
Come on, no hop, walk right in.
Okay, so as long as they're not selling me cat and rat, I might go.
No, you can get some. You can get some good
you. You can get some cow tongue though, that's for sure.
Yeah, you can get some organ meat.
Building on that great question, what are some novel and creative ways that you've found to communicate with your community? Because serving these marginalized communities, one of the ways to do that is to reach them first. So what are some of those aha creative moments you had of, oh, we can do it like this?
So we do have a little bit of experience in that. A lot of what we do is pop-up and experiential. Like we've learned here in Kenmore, like you can't tell people about something, you have to allow them to experience it. So a lot of what we do during our events is we bring in different, cuisines, different artists, different vendors, so people can experience what it would be like to have the thing that they said they wanted in their space. So that's one way we do it, but another thing, you were mentioning, Justin, and yes, we do need to get together. One thing that we've tried to do is leverage all of our social media outlets to promote the businesses within the district, promote the people who own the businesses within the district, promote the events they have going on. When Jennifer had a business right down the road, we'd always promote, it's a certain night. You guys had I forget, you had a taco night. There are different nights. Like, what are the sales that are going on? It sounds trivial, but it's the thing that gets the person through the door maybe for the first time. And I will tell you, money is green is correct. And in Kenmore, there's a lot of people who still live here who lived here when it was 93% white. And they tend to be in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. But I'll tell you what, once the business moves into Kenmore and they know you're part of Kenmore, you're red and black. It's not black and white anymore. And that's the thing. It's the same with music, which is why we believe so strongly in the music aspect. That breaks down racial barriers. It breaks down socioeconomic barriers. When you're out enjoying yourself, when you're experiencing something with other people in your community, you're not looking at what color they are, how old they are, or what mate they came with. You're just seeing the good thing that's in front of you. And I feel like that's the part of what's made a lot of what we've done successful.
All right, so forgive the shameless plug. Final Fridays, which I want to kind of piggyback off of that, we'll be doing that as a North Hill 6 to 11 at People's Park. So come on out, just experience the community-free event. But there's a science behind what those Friday events do, right? And so when you see the momentum that Tina's had, it's not by accident, right? So what happens is when you do these Friday events, and whether it's first, second, third, fourth, it doesn't matter. But somehow in the community, subconsciously, they're like, oh, it's Friday. I should go to the bully. There's something going on there. And it could be on the second or the fourth Friday. So naturally what happens over time is that people just don't wait for that first Friday to come. They're going back on that second Friday or maybe on the Thursday, right? So there's a beauty in that we're going to tease as well in North Hill to figure out what that looks like, right? No conflicted with you at all, but
I'll be there.
Yeah, well, please come. I mean, so I think that's part of the process is that within our communities, we all have something different to offer, but we have to make sure, and I think that's a great question. I think we're still sometimes figuring that out. It's really through trial and error because it's how do you, we don't have at a time a 97% white community. So to bring multiple cultures together, what works? Is it food? Is it music? Is it knowing that entrepreneurs can come and make $500 if they pop up a tent and sell their goods? right? So there's trust building, but there's also exposure. And so in social media, true, but in these communities, it's still boots on the ground, right? And letting them know, because we have people in North Hill that don't read their own language. So for me to give you a flyer, what the heck are you going to do with that? It doesn't hold value. But me sitting down at your house and having tea and these cookies, right? Like that shows you that I'm interested and you will come. So a lot of times that's walking around and figuring out as well, but it's providing the space and the language behind it, I think is important.
Yes, and we actually having what they call Beat the Heat. I don't know if y'all ever heard of that program, but it's Beat the Heat. So it invite everyone to come out, and we invite different vendors out, you know, different cultures, regard if it's Chinese or Indian food, Somalian food, different vendors out. And we actually bring people together, again, where everybody can be heard. So we are doing this in August, the third Friday in August. So if you're not doing anything, come on, stop on by.
Where was stopping by?
640 North Main Street.
Just a question.
Sure.
I noticed that you two and also Mr. Jimmie are all pretty much in the same area. So how will you all three work together to help each other out in that same community base that y'all are in?
Love the question. So Christina, I'm like, hey, can I have the money? Right? And then me and Mr. Jimmie need to figure out how to make it work.
Right.
No, but honestly, I got an email from Great Streets that I knew that he was coming to the neighborhood. I had not been able to get a hold of you, right? I hadn't. So now that I have his contact, right? My first conversation when I saw him, I was like, listen, we're in the same neighborhood. Let's collab, right? Let's figure out what that looks like, because I feel like we're always better together. We're in the business of not reproducing services, but finding out how to provide access and share that floor in that space, right? So if we can all celebrate North Hill, if I can let you know in my space, if you can let me know in your space that these things are available for the entirety of our community, then that's where we double down. That's where we want to win. So like we don't live in silos. Funders don't like people who live in silos, because we represent North Hill, like not just the CDC, right? So that's important for us, is to figure out what collaboration looks like for providers in our neighborhood as well.
Yeah, I'll ask that question because I'm original from Akron, and I also went to North High School, so I know how that area used to be when I was in high school, which was many moons ago. But just knowing that there are other people that are in the same neighborhood where they can collaborate together and also help one another to help the community. When they see that they're all collaborating together, it makes the people really want to be engaged with each individual's business.
Yeah, I like that. Our thing is to collaborate, and that's what we want to do, collaborate with other organizations, other CDCs, where we can come together and tackle the community together, because we all, we want to be better than the Cleveland Browns. But I'm just saying, we want to
be a very high bar. Let's set the bar higher.
So we want to be able to come together and tackle the neighborhood. So we are all for collaborating with all organizations to fight the North Hill as well as East, all over.
Question I have, it's not as exciting as concert venues or these amazing success stories of entrepreneurship, but the reality is that, like, in our communities, the average citizen can't afford a $400 emergency. So to spur economic development, do you have any success stories where you are building up households to be more financially stable so they can infuse more money into the smaller businesses, take care of their homes without needing as much assistance, and kind of see the value in the community by what they do within their own households?
So that's the reason for our 90-day case management, which is life coaching, is to help them and see where they are. Because our goal is to make sure when they at the end of the bridge, we use this bridge. get across the bridge. When they're at the end of the bridge, they're self-sufficient, they're on their feet, they're able to maintain household, they're able to, you know, afford the things that they need to afford. So not only that we offer just to assist you with 2 months of rent, you know, but we also offer you with referrals. We also give you programs that you can enroll into to get the education, to get job training, to get, you know, if you need GED, to get your GED, and just to help you get across that bridge. So that's one thing that we really tackle, because we understand we don't want to be able to where they keep coming back, because we are the temporary band-aid. So we just a temporary fix. But we want to make sure that you heal completely and you're able to stand and soar on your own.
So what most of these communities, like low to moderate income communities, are you guys getting feedback that the current inflation rate at the pace that it's facing, are people giving you feedback that they feel the stresses of that right now in these communities, or are you working through it?
Well, I have talked to different individuals, and they have gave us a lot of feedback on that they feeling it. And with the way that the crisis is and the pandemic, everything going on, you know, it's like hard for them to bounce back. And that's why we're there to help them to bounce back, to get them back up again, you know, to get them off of the crutch, the walker, so they can be able to, you know, walk on their own. Yeah.
I think that's an underlying piece of everything that we're working on. So one of the stories we get most excited about is, you know, one of the moms, single mom, 6 kids, moved into one of our first houses that we rehabbed. Her, at the time, freshman in high school, had never lived in the same house for a duration of a school year. So he moved, like their family, they just moved every year, at least once during the school year. So they kind of followed the chaos of the eviction cycle, right? So you pay rent for a month or two, and maybe you stay up to date for a few months, but as soon as you miss rent that first month, you know you got 90 days to save for your next place, first month security deposit. So you just kind of follow that cycle. Every 6, 7, 8 months, you're moving to the next place. So we've had single mom, 6 kids. You know, she missed rent after about 5, 6 months of being in one of our houses, and we just tracked her down. Her kids got on the bus stop, the same place that my kids do. So I waited for her at the bus stop, and was just like, hey, where are you at? Like, what's going on in your life? Like, communicate with us. Don't just ghost. Yeah. And so the next day, she brought us an $1,800 check, because she knew that she was waiting for her notice to go on the door, and then she would start looking for the next place, and she knew she had 90 days. She also then connected with our workforce development cohort, and now works at Summa Hospital, and has a career path job. And so this is the chaos, like, you know, buzzword right now. Sorry, I'm on a soapbox here for a second. Yeah. But the chaos of, like, we all, you know, systemic issues is like this buzz thing right now that everyone's talking about. But that's the reality that most people, you know, our neighborhood's 91% low income. And so the people in our community are constantly fighting for, like, what's next, the next, not tragedy, but like the next big thing that's happening. Most people can't withstand the $400 expense. Like, it's the next big thing. And we believe that in order to create stability, it starts with housing, and then is workforce development. And so I don't have a good story to say, well, now we know that this lady can withstand a $400 once a month payment or one-time payment, but we know that we're not going to evict her, and we're going to create a plan and a process for her to be able to get back on track in some way. So, I mean, all of those things, you know, whether it's housing, job training, you know, a teacher knowing your kid's name at the elementary school, like another adult at the elementary school who tutors your kid, who knows your kid's name. I think all of those things play a part in helping get to a place where you can actually withstand a $400 a month payment. So in our workforce cohorts, we do have financial training and things like that. So that's built in and part of what we do kind of on all levels. But that's why I think the holistic approach to so much is so important. because it's a system that has been against people for a long time. And so how do we reverse that system where it's not, where people don't feel like they're alone as they function?
Thanks, Zach, and thank you, everyone. I appreciate the questions. They will be around, so I encourage you to stop and chat with them. It's been great to have you. Zach is going to be playing some music for us while we just kind of mingle and again we start. Not this Zach.
You don't want me